I think that there's a really interesting conversation that's going on about whether or not women are putting on makeup or trying to act and look a certain way for themselves, for men, for other women. Who's it for? Who's it serving? Who's it really pleasing? And I would argue that potentially it's not pleasing anybody. And I don't know where that miscommunication is going on. I'm not exactly sure how you ever get to the root of it because it's just been going on for so long. But I think that for a lot of us, it's just that we grew up being told, being sold this unrealistic, really unattainable ideal of beauty, and that a lot of us are trying in whatever way to try to match that. And if we can't match it, we're trying to very actively rebel against it so that it becomes a conscious choice that we're not looking that way, as opposed to that we failed to look that way.
Can you give any examples, celebrities or people you know, or just like in the public sphere, so that other people have like role models?
So I think that eating disorders are a perfect example. So I think that we're given this body ideal of sort of like a Barbie figure of big hips, big boobs, tiny waist, long blonde hair, etc. And that the entire eating disorder paradigm is based on this idea of either you're doing everything in your power to try to achieve that, and that takes place in looking like, whether it's anorexia or bulimia or exercise addictions, or it's just like, I'm never gonna look like that, so screw that model because that's not real, that doesn't exist, and I'm gonna treat my body in a very negative way on the opposite side of the spectrum. And it's why, eating disorders of all kinds are all the same, whether it's obesity or anorexia. They're two sides of the same coin. It's the same fundamental problems that are leading to this idea of us not loving and respecting our own bodies, and then doing everything in our power to either try to achieve that ideal or go in the opposite direction. Same with makeup. I think you look at like a goth beauty trend, and that's very much of an active rebellion against a very specific, all-American, if you will, beauty ideal, and saying, I don't look like that, I'm not gonna look like that, and instead of feeling like a failure, which is what our internal bodies don't ever wanna feel like we failed. So it's all about how we construct our external world to make us successes within our own heads. And so if we are going to potentially fail at looking at like this ideal, instead of that, I'm going to actively make a choice to look like the opposite. And so whether that's really dark, smudgy eyeliner, whether it's really dark hair, whether it's short hair versus long hair, whether it's, being really thin and that like heroin chic look of not having any breasts and sort of this more androgynous look, like that is the absolute opposite of this like Pamela Anderson sex symbol, and it's just a matter of where you are actively making your decision of, again, the same idea of what image am I going to project to the world.